What if I told you that hidden among seemingly empty shipping containers at one of Nigeria's busiest ports was a stash? Not of cocoa, not of textiles, but 1 ton of pure cocaine. Not worth millions, but hundreds of millions. On November 11, 2025, authorities at the PTML terminal of Tincan Island Port in Lagos made one of the biggest drug busts in the country's history. 1,000 kilograms, that's 1 metric ton, of cocaine seized in a single operation. The street value? Over $235 million, roughly $338 billion. But this is more than just a single container or a single shipment. It's a sign of something bigger. A global network, a cartel, moving with sophistication, international coordination, and bold ambition. And now, with international agencies joining the investigation, Nigeria stands at the heart of a story that spans continents. To understand what just happened, we must first look at Nigeria's growing role in the global narcotics trade. For decades, West Africa has served as a transit corridor, a bridge between drug-producing regions and lucrative markets in Europe and beyond. But recent years show a worrying shift. Nigeria is not just a pit stop. It's increasingly becoming ground zero for large-scale drug importation and distribution. And as traffickers evolve, so too must the agencies seeking to thwart them. The country's main anti-narcotics agency, NDLEA, has in 2025 already recorded multiple breakthroughs, from intercepting cocaine and opioids hidden in cosmetics, household items, and even auto parts to dismantling international networks. The scale and frequency of operations signal a serious escalation. But the 1-ton seizure at Tincan Island Port stands apart. It's not just the size. It's the boldness, the brazenness, the sheer audacity of smuggling a shipment like this through one of Nigeria's busiest ports. And it raises a frightening question. If 1 ton got caught, how much more got through? The story begins with what appeared to be an empty shipping container. Container number GCNU 1332851. Offloaded at the PTML terminal, Tincan Island Port, Lagos. The container had arrived via shipping routes from Freetown, Sierra Leone. On October 7, 2025, during a routine terminal disinfection exercise, a standard, seemingly mundane port procedure, operators flagged the container as suspicious. There was no declared consignee, no import documents, nothing to indicate legitimate cargo. Because of that suspicion, port stakeholders, including the Customs Service, security agencies, and the NDLEA, were summoned for a joint inspection. The atmosphere was tense. Empty container, mysterious cargo, and a growing sense that something was very wrong. Then the lab results came in. The white powder tested positive for cocaine. Not a few kilos, not 100, but 1,000 kilograms, a full metric ton. Immediately, the seizure was described as the largest single consignment of cocaine ever recovered at Tincan Port. The value stunned even seasoned narcotics investigators. Over $235 million globally. Locally, that's roughly $338 billion. Money enough to shake economies, enough to bankroll violent networks, enough to destabilize communities. Once confirmed, the container and its contents were formally handed over to NDLEA custody on November 11, 2025. The handover followed a coordinated effort between the NDLEA chairman, the Customs Comptroller General, and other security agencies, underscoring the seriousness of the find. For Nigeria, a nation already grappling with multiple security and governance challenges, this seizure was a wake-up call. It proved that drug trafficking cartels are capable of operating on an industrial scale, using our ports, exploiting our logistics networks, and hiding in plain sight. Recognizing the global scope of the operation, the NDLEA didn't act alone. Immediately after seizure, they requested international assistance. The response was swift. Agents from the Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, of the United States, and the National Crime Agency, NCA, of the United Kingdom joined the investigation. The NDLEA chairman, Brig General Buba Marwa, RTD, emphasized the need for global cooperation. With a shipment of this size, he said, "We must ensure no stone is left unturned," meaning tracking ownership, tracing shipment routes, monitoring financial trails, and unearthing the entire supply network. This is not just Nigeria's fight. It's part of a global war on narcotics, and the intensity of the response reveals just how serious the stakes are. Importantly, this seizure fits into a broader pattern. In earlier operations throughout 2025, NDLEA dismantled international organized criminal groups operating across continents Nigeria, UK, Brazil, Australia, the UAE. In one notable case, air freight shipments concealed in textile materials and local charms bound for Sydney, Australia were intercepted. 3 cartel leaders arrested. The methods of concealment have been creative, varied, often brazen. From hiding cocaine in cocoa butter body cream containers, hair gels, stainless cups, even in the walls of the cups themselves, to embedding drugs inside auto parts bound for other African countries. This adaptability, changing routes, changing concealment, indicates a high-level, well-funded, resourceful cartel. One that treats seizures as business costs and avoids detection through constant reinvention. So how do these cartels survive, even thrive, under such scrutiny? The answer lies in method, strategy, and deep knowledge of global logistics. Concealment inside legitimate goods and containers. In many recent busts, cocaine was hidden inside everyday products. Body cream containers, cosmetics, hair gels, even stainless cups. By doing so, traffickers leveraged the relative complacency of customs inspections at export sheds and warehouses. But it goes beyond just cosmetics. In certain cases, narcotics were embedded in textile materials, sometimes packed with local charms, presumably to ward off suspicion or as part of a scheme to confuse inspectors. Use of empty shipping containers as Trojan horses. The 1-ton seizure made headlines not only for its size, but for how it was hidden in what was declared an empty shipping container. Container number GCNU 1332851 had reportedly no import manifest, no declared cargo, a glaring red flag. That it passed through port oversight until a routine disinfection check suggests a vulnerability in the system. By exploiting procedural loopholes, like empty container classifications, traffickers can slip massive shipments through under minimal scrutiny. Hidden in industrial or export-bound goods, the cartel shows it can adapt. In one recent operation, cocaine was found concealed in automobile parts bound for export to Gabon. The shipment, disguised as legitimate auto parts cargo, was intercepted thanks to intelligence and targeted scrutiny. Such diversification shows that traffickers are not relying on a single smuggling method. They are pivoting, evolving, using trade cover as camouflage. This single 1-ton cocaine seizure at Tincan Port is more than a breaking news moment. It's a wake-up call. The consequences ripple far beyond just this container or this port. Historically, many in law enforcement and policymaking spheres viewed Nigeria, and West Africa broadly, as a transit corridor for narcotics destined for Europe or beyond. But this seizure signals something more worrying. Nigeria is being used for massive importation, possibly for redistribution or storage before onward shipment. For international cartels, this makes the country, and especially major ports like Tincan, a critical node. That increases pressure on the country's maritime infrastructure, customs, and security agencies. The drugs were hidden in what was declared as an empty container, one of 39 such containers imported from Freetown, Sierra Leone, for export loading. That a routine disinfection exercise triggered the discovery, rather than a targeted drug detection operation, suggests notable vulnerabilities in port procedures and screening. It raises concerns that many containers may pass unchecked if not for chance inspections or whistles from vigilant terminal operators. If a shipment this large could slip that far smaller consignments, easier to hide but cumulatively as harmful, might already be entering or leaving the country undetected. In response to the seizure, the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, invited support from the United States Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, and the National Crime Agency, NCA, of the UK, reflecting the transnational nature of the criminal network. This isn't just Nigeria's problem. It's global. Traffickers often spread operations across continents. Cutting off a shipment in Lagos may just be one piece in a larger web spanning South America, Europe, West Africa, and more. International collaboration becomes essential. A consignment of this scale represents a huge quantity of a Class A narcotic, potentially destined for export, but equally possible for domestic turnover. If even a fraction of that cocaine finds its way into local abuse and distribution networks, the social cost could be massive. Increased addiction, violence, crime, public health burden, and destabilization. Even beyond immediate risks, it erodes public trust in institutions, port security, and governance broadly. Perception of the country as a drug hub could affect trade, foreign investment, and international relations. Heavy checkmark what we know. The shipment, 1,000 kilograms, 1 metric ton, of cocaine, was discovered in a 20-foot container number GCNU 1332851, at the PTML terminal, Tincan Island Port, Lagos. The container was flagged during a routine disinfection exercise of a batch of 39 empty containers imported from Freetown, Sierra Leone on October 7, 2025. After joint examination by port stakeholders, customs, NDLEA, DSS, police anti-bomb squad, and others, field tests confirmed the substance as cocaine. The consignment was formally handed over to NDLEA on November 11, 2025. On the international market, the shipment is reportedly valued at over $235 million, is almost equal to N$338 billion. In response to the seizure, NDLEA has enlisted help from DEA, US, and NCA, UK, to investigate the origin, route, and intended destination of the cocaine, part of a broader probe into an alleged global cartel. What we still don't know. Key questions. Who ordered/financed this shipment? The ultimate masterminds remain unidentified. As of now, there's no known consignee or owner linked to the container. Destination and intent. Was the cocaine meant for domestic distribution within Nigeria, or re-export to Europe or another foreign market? There's no confirmed destination or buyer. Full scope of the cartel network. While international agencies are involved, it remains unclear how wide the network is, how many operatives, countries, and logistics chains are involved. Potential corruption or insider collusion. Given how the container passed as empty, investigators must examine whether there was complicity among port or shipping staff. How much more might be slipping through? If one container was caught due to random inspection, how many others might be going undetected? Without structural reforms, this may be the tip of the iceberg. The aftermath of a bust this big is rarely quick or clean. What happens in the next few weeks could determine whether this is a marquee success or a forgotten headline. Watch for official statements about arrests, especially of high-value suspects, financiers, or international cartel leaders. Will any names be released? Will extraditions follow? Expect more arrests domestically, particularly among logistics agents, freight handlers, port workers, shipping companies, or possible insiders. Authorities may carry out follow-up raids. Legal and diplomatic threads. If the shipment is tied to foreign networks, efforts may include international warrants, cooperation across countries, and pressure on shipping lines or transit countries. Increased scrutiny of imported/exported empty containers. Stronger documentation requirements, manifest checks, container tracking, and cargo origin verification. Possible overhaul of port clearance procedures. More frequent inspections. Use of non-intrusive scanning, intelligence-led profiling, and collaboration among security agencies. Public-private partnerships. Shipping companies, terminal operators, and port stakeholders may be compelled to adopt tighter compliance standards. Expect public debate. Media, civil society, and policymakers may demand accountability, transparency, and anti-corruption actions at ports and customs. Heightened awareness. The seizure could trigger anti-drug campaigns, public education about trafficking, and advocacy for stronger local drug legislation and enforcement. International relations. Given the involvement of DEA and NCA, Nigeria may face diplomatic scrutiny, pushing for better cooperation, accountability, and perhaps pressure to reform trade and cargo inspection frameworks. The 1-ton seizure at Tincan Port is not an outlier. Rather, it fits into a rapidly escalating pattern of narcotics trafficking through Nigeria, with increasing sophistication in methods, disguises, and global outreach. In September 2025, NDLEA dismantled an international organized criminal group operating between Nigeria, UK, Brazil, Australia, and UAE. The group attempted to export cocaine concealed in textile materials and local charms destined for Sydney, Australia. 3 cartel leaders were arrested. In earlier 2025 operations, agents intercepted thousands of opioid pills and smaller cocaine consignments hidden in everyday goods, microwaves, cosmetics, household items, showing traffickers exploit the innocence of routine trade. Even after major busts, traffickers remain adaptive. In a recent November 2025 incident, cocaine was found hidden in automobile parts at Lagos Airport, bound for Gabon, suggesting a shift in smuggling tactics. What this pattern demonstrates is that dismantling one ring or busting one shipment doesn't end the problem. For as long as there is demand, profit, and weak enforcement, traffickers will evolve. So where does this leave us as a country, as citizens, and as part of a global community? This seizure is a victory, but it's just one battle in a long war. Unless we confront the system that allows such shipments and dismantle the networks behind them, there will always be another container, another port, another shipment. Share this video. Talk about it. Demand accountability, because silence and complacency only help the traffickers.